Hi, I'm Christa Jacobson, headmistress of the Budo where we teach authentic ninjutsu and classical samurai Bujutsu. And for those of you who don't know what that is, those are the ancient martial arts of the ninja and samurai. In today's video, we are going to discuss how to train with injuries. And if you're a serious martial artist and dedicated anyway, it doesn't matter who you are, it doesn't matter what martial arts you train in, if you're dedicated to it, you're going to have to deal with injuries. So this video is we're going to discuss that, how to deal with injuries, how to train with injuries, what can you do when you're injured, the mentality of being injured. That's going to be the topic of today's video. Now, before we begin, if you guys have not already subscribed to my YouTube channel, please do that. Just click the subscribe button. Don't forget to click the little bell. That way you guys get the notifications. I do put up 2 to 3 videos a week, and that way you guys can keep up with what I do. As I said to start the video, I teach authentic ninjutsu and classical samurai bujutsu, so the koryu arts of Japan, the ancient martial arts of the ninja and samurai. But we also teach, reality-based self-defense, survival classes, concealed carry, lots of other things. So if you guys are interested in that sort of thing, self-defense, that weapons training, martial arts theory, thought, philosophy, please subscribe to the YouTube channel and click the bell. So here we go. Training with injuries, right? Like I said, I don't care who you are or what you do. It doesn't matter what kind of martial art it is. If you're training in it and you're dedicated to it, you're going to get injured. That's the nature of the game. Now, before we begin into this, I think that there's a couple things you guys should know, a little bit about me. Before, I started the Budo back in 2004. So, I've been professionally teaching ninjutsu worldwide since 2004. We do have thousands of students all over the world training the organization. Previous to that, I was a fitness instructor. I owned a health club. I used to compete in fitness competition, bodybuilding, and so forth. So one thing about me, by trade, health, fitness, working out, that sort of thing, that was what I was trained in. That was my trade before I left the health club industry, left the health and fitness industry, and just went right into martial arts. Now, so knowing that, okay, I just want to say that when you're injured, knowing that about me, so going to that, when you're injured, there's only really 2 main types of injuries that we're going to discuss. You have chronic injuries and you have acute injuries. A chronic injury is something it goes away, but it's always there. Like someone who has chronic back pain, that means it keeps coming back. It keeps coming back. It's something it's always going to be there. It's a constant problem. There might be times where it's not a problem, but it's always there. That's a chronic injury. Where, say, an acute injury is something that happens right now in the moment, and you can heal from it and not have to deal with it in the future. Like you break your leg, right? So you break your leg, wear a cast, so many weeks later, you're good. Jump back in the game and you get going again. Where like something like arthritis of the knees, that's a chronic problem. You don't just get rid of that in 4 to 6 weeks. When we're talking about injuries here, I think it's important that you guys need to understand, know your body, know yourself, know your training, and what can you do to continue your training regardless of whether it's a chronic injury or whether it's an acute injury. Now, once people get injured, their immediate thing is that they're like, oh, well, my life sucks, I gotta stop. That's absolutely not true. That just means you gotta start training something else. See, martial arts is to train the mind, body, and spirit, and to make it one unit, one method of energy that can move and react spontaneously with little effort, because you're so trained that in a intense violent situation, you can be very effective and pragmatic in that situation. Martial arts itself, just doing the physical side of the martial arts, is not the only thing that you need to do. So if you are injured, there may be times where maybe you can't practice the physical aspect of the martial arts as much, but you can always practice the other aspects of martial arts, where it's the mental training, the spiritual training, the emotional training, the healing aspects of the martial arts. Those are the areas that you can actually increase your time to still increase your martial arts ability. And those are the areas a lot of martial arts tend to throw off. A lot of people, they just don't want to train in those things, whether it's because they're not really interested in it or whatnot. But those are very important and integral aspects to the martial arts, as understanding that way of connecting to the elements and the energy and everything to do with meditation and the mind and the mental aspect of strategy and understanding strategy and understanding how you could take these various different strategies and apply them to combat or in a combative situation. That's very important. But so many people, they kind of throw that on the back burner because all they want to do is punch, punch, kick, kick. You know? I think the people who are not really the good martial artists really stay in the physical realm. I mean, I don't think it takes a whole lot of talent just to beat somebody's ass, to be honest with you. I don't know that just because you can beat somebody's ass, you know, and you're really good at violence, I don't know that that necessarily makes you a good martial artist. I don't give a shit what belt you have on your waist. You know what I mean? There's more to a martial artist than just being able to, you know, punch, punch, kick, kick. And the people that, you know, are enamored and impressed by people that can do fancy tricks on how to kick somebody's ass in a variety of different ways, you know, it's not the way. It's being able to protect yourself and the ones you love. Yeah, absolutely, you should be able to do that. I'm not taking away the physical aspect of martial arts. I mean, they were made to go to war and kill people on the battlefield and, you know, fight to the death and all that kind of stuff. I get that, but there's more to it than just that. So, you know, don't go into the mentality of, well, I'm injured, so now I can't train. You know, let's not go there. So what can you do? Well, if your school is anything like our school, there's going to be lots of other things, other aspects that you could do. I don't know what the injury is, but if you can't do the physical aspect of training, let's just go punch, punch, kick, kick. If you can't do that kind of stuff, can you work with weapons? Is that an option? And just kind of throw out the hand-to-hand combat or the impact aspect of your training. If you're dealing with leg and knee or ankle injuries, can you still work your hand drills without hurting your legs or working on your legs? If you have a hand injury, can you work with your legs without working on your hands? You know, and those sort of things. And if you can, you need to devise a way to do that. Just because you're injured, you don't want everything to fall off. Most people don't have, well, you know, I injured my neck, both of my arms, both of my legs, and my back all at the same time. I mean, that's not the normal injury. So whatever the injury is, even though you may have to take some time off, you know, you want to make sure that you understand that you still need to train the other areas and take advantage of the time. I mean, I've said this a million times, guys, in so many videos. The only thing we have in life is time. When your time's up, you're up. That's it. So when you're wasting your bullshit time with people that you don't like, that are being disrespectful, talking shit and all this kind of stuff, when you're doing that kind of stuff, you're literally wasting your life. You're giving your life to somebody, which is time. Time is just another word for life, right? When you're giving your time to someone, you're giving your life to someone. And if you're spending time with people that are just hateful bastards, then you're wasting your fucking life away on hateful bastards. You know what I mean? So when you're sitting there and you're like, well, I love martial arts, I want to continue my training, but I'm hurt. Okay, well, what is hurt? What can you do? That's the first thing you want to do. You got to make sure you understand the injury. Is it a chronic injury? Or is it an acute injury? And I'm going to make a video, I guess, on injury prevention. Also, I also want to make a video on training in the martial arts at an older age. Because, I mean, I have a lot of chronic injuries. I have a lot of miles on me. And I think that's another video that I could share with you guys and talk about those topics as well. Dealing with joint problems and such. Bad backs and bad knees and all that good stuff. But let's get back to this initial one. This one's about training with injuries. So the first thing you want to do is know, is this a chronic injury or is this a acute injury? Once you've recognized that, then you need to determine, okay, what is it that I can do physically? Whether it's just working your arms, working your legs, whatever it is that you got to do, and then work on that. And the next thing is you need to start studying the things that's going to help better yourself in the martial art that you study. So whether that's learning the history and tradition, learning the cultural aspects of the arts, meditation, stretching, flexibility, whatever that you can do. Again, focus on those things. I know in our school, every level we have a verbal exam on every level here at the Budo Kai. And so you have to learn, you know, various history and tradition and historical lessons and all that kind of stuff. So that gives an opportunity for students to be able to work on those parts of their training, even though they might not be doing the physical kata. And that's just something that we do here. I'm not saying that every school does that, but I think it's very important for my students to know the history and tradition of the arts that they study. So every level there's a verbal exam, and they have a list of different historical questions, kuden, deshitan or question Q&As, and they need to know those so they can get from level 1 to level 2 or 2 to 3, etc. So they could be working on that. Like I said, if you can't do the impact training, take the impact out. Maybe you can work on the kata or your techniques in the air without any resistance. Maybe you should just be working on weapons. A lot of times people, you know, they hurt their backs or they hurt their hands, or, you know, maybe they hurt their shoulder. They strained something when they were working on their grappling. We do a lot of full contact grappling and full contact kickboxing when we work the sparring. A lot of times maybe that'll be the week that we might work on some, they work on their swordsmanship and their iaijutsu skills, or they're working on Bujutsu or Tanto Jutsu or whatever it is. We'll just give them something different. That way they can allow their body to heal and then still progress in another area. So what I'm trying to say is, when I talked about life, the only thing we have in life is time. You have to understand, to be successful in anything, you need to know how to manage your time. So what I mean by that is, if you're hurt, and again, let's go with an ankle injury, then you have an ankle injury. So what can you do with your time to train your upper body or your core to be able to be successful in your martial arts training? What studying do you need to do with the history and tradition and learning your verbal exams do you need to do to be successful? What can you do from a physical perspective, whether it's weight training, cardiovascular conditioning, all those kind of things? What can you do to still continue to train and be successful? Because you don't want to take time off. Just because you're hurt does not mean you need to take time off. Sometimes you need to take time off. Don't get me wrong. There could be injuries where it's just like, you know, flat out, you can't do anything, you know. Who knows what the injury is? And I'm not talking about injuries in specific, because, you know, I think that's, it's a little too much. I'm trying to be more generic on the approach. I think that if you take your approach towards training as, okay, this is where I'm hurt, I need to take my time and use it wisely. What can I do to benefit myself as a martial artist? That's where I think the most important aspect is, especially in Ninjutsu and Bujutsu, because we train so much and having to understand strategy and principles and all these type of things. It gives you an opportunity to be able to train and still progress. Another thing is, you have to look at the injury itself also as it's part of training. It's part of the practice. It's part of the art. Because you're going to have to do this stuff injured anyway. So I don't want to say that you should push yourself through an injury, because again, there are certain injuries that you just don't want to do that, because you end up hurting yourself more. But understanding that you got to keep going even though you have an injury. And I think that mentality is very important, because when you are injured, it doesn't make a shit. If you're really injured, even in like a reality-based self-defense situation, which, like I said to start the video, that's something that we have a strong emphasis on here in the Budo Rikai, is reality-based self-defense. When someone's trying to knife your ass, you know, and all this, you're gonna get injured really fucking quick if you can't handle it. And if you are injured really quick, you have to be able to keep going. You know, you're gonna have to recognize that injury, whether it's a cut or whatever, and then continue to keep moving forward. Take it, recognize it, keep moving forward. If you have acquired an injury through some sort of self-defense situation. Well, that's why you don't wanna run away from that when you're in the situation. The injury is part of training. What can you do when you have that injury? How can you move when you have that injury? That way, when you ever have that injury again, you'll know what you can do, how you do it, when you do it, etc., etc. And that's another important aspect towards the martial arts. So when you are training with an injury, make sure that you do the things not only to continue to better yourself, but also to heal yourself. A lot of times people know how to, like, well, I've got this injury. So like example, they know I've sprained my ankle. So, okay, I'm gonna do, you know, this is a hypothetical. Somebody will sprain their ankle and then they'll say, well, I'm gonna do, you know, 800 milligrams of ibuprofen 4 times a day, breakfast, lunch, dinner, and then right before bed. That way I have an anti-inflammatory into my system. I'm gonna use the rice method, which is, you know, rest, ice, compress, and elevate. I'm gonna do that, you know, after my workout, after the dojo, before I go to bed, blah, blah, blah. They're gonna go through this whole thing. And then they know how to kind of go through some sort of a healing situation with an injury and or rehab, I guess, to a certain point, you know. But more importantly, it's not just that, it's being able to train your body to prevent those injuries as well. A lot of times you get these people that are martial artists and they're just these fat, overweight, out of shape they couldn't fight themselves out of a wet paper bag if they actually got into a real fight. In fact, I've seen these people, they're just so damn big, even if the house caught on fire, their ass wouldn't get out the front door even if they had to. This is just the way that, because they don't train themselves to do it. I mean, I've said this a million times in all of my videos, and I'm gonna say it a million times more just because I have no problem saying it. 99% of all martial arts are bullshit. And it's not because of the art, it's because of the instructor. 99% of them are bullshit. They do not practice what they preach. They don't. And that's one reason why I'm so damn vocal with my videos, is because it's just like, it just sucks that I'm out here busting my ass. I'm trying to help people be better at martial arts. I'm trying to set a good example, and I'm busting my ass in training, and I'm doing everything that I ask my students to do. And then you see these people, it's freaking, you know, like, you train to be a martial artist. When someone says, what does that mean? A lot of people be like, well, being a martial artist means you're making your body be the weapon. Well, fuck, if you're gonna make your body be the weapon, why would you be, you know, 100 pounds overweight? That's like having a fucking shotgun in the fucking corner and it's all rusted up and you can't shoot the damn thing. You know what I mean? Who gives a shit that you got a shotgun over there, you know? It's just, it's just, but some people just, I guess, don't really give a shit about that, I guess. But, you know, I just find it a bit hypocritical and sad that martial art some teachers present their shit like that. But, you know, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that martial art teachers need to look like bodybuilders. I'm not saying that. And I don't think there's anything wrong with having, you know, people who have, like, you know, more body fat than they should. But when your body weight or your body size or your lack of flexibility or any lack of any physical skill, when that gets to the point where it does or is detrimental to your martial arts skill, that's bad. So there's nothing wrong with a little bit of ass, but if you got a lot, you know, then it's probably stopping you from being better. And I think that's that part of martial arts that we all attain for. I don't give a shit what martial arts you guys are doing. It doesn't matter who you are, what martial art you train for. We're all training to be better. You're going to get injured. That's what martial arts is. You're gonna punch something, you're gonna kick something, you're gonna, you know, and through the impact and through all of that, you're going to get injured. So it's not about being injured. It's about the mentality of keeping going even though you are injured. So if you have a physical injury, make sure that you put that injury in check. Do the things that you need to do to heal that injury while training the other areas that you can while being injured. Make sure that you train everything, and it gives you the opportunity to use your time wisely to train the areas that you neglect. Most people neglect the mental side of martial arts or studying the history and tradition. Most people neglect the spiritual side of martial arts and understanding energy and the natural energy around us. Most people neglect those kind of things, meditation and natural healing. So those aspects of the martial arts, when you have an injury, it gives you an opportunity to study those areas and increase your knowledge and increase your skill set in those areas. Just like in survival skills. You know, the constant different weather changing, all these things, it gives you an opportunity to work on creating fire, making shelter, finding water, disinfecting water, hunting, tracking, all those skill sets that you need to have to be able to survive in that situation. And it gives you that opportunity even if you're injured. And those are the things that you need to focus on. So I know that this is one of those little videos where it's like, I'm not for sure that I shed a light on anything other than, you know, keep your head about yourself. Don't give up. Even when you're injured, that doesn't mean you need to stop training. It just means you need to change the angle of your training and keep moving forward so you can be successful in your martial art goals. So, if you guys are interested in authentic ninjutsu and classical samurai bujutsu, please check out my website at www.budo-ninjutsu.com. There you can see a list of our schools and the 7 traditions that we have, as well as the different philosophies of teaching. If you don't live next to one of our schools, you can always join the online ninjutsu dojo and train with us that way. Again, that's at www.budo-ninjutsu.com. The link is below in the description. Thank you guys very much for your love and support. And until next time, take care, be safe, and good luck in your journey of Budo.